Construction Studies. And I interned with the Department of Veterans Affairs last summer. So I applied for the Federal Service Student Ambassador Program with the Partnership for Public Service. They're basically a nonprofit organization that promotes federal service among the youth community. And my job here is to assist students with the application process and finding and applying to federal jobs and internships. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know.
Okay, and at any point, if anybody does have any questions, please feel free to just ask, because most likely you aren't the only one. One little thing I just want to state: if you are not a U.S. citizen, if you are an international student, that can really hinder your opportunities within the federal government to the point where it may not even be worth it to look into careers in the federal government. So I just want to put that out there. There are opportunities for permanent residents, not as many as full citizens, but just to put that out there so we don't waste anybody's time. So before we get started, does anybody have any specific questions? Okay. We'll get going. Basically, what we want to cover today are the opportunities and benefits that come with working within the federal government, as there are many. We want to show you where the jobs are, how to search, how to find them, and then how to go through the application process. It is not like applying for a job with a typical corporation that you may find through e-recruiting. There's a lot that goes into it, and we just want you to be prepared and educated for the time and effort that it does take to go through this whole process.
So there are a lot of myths to federal service and obtaining a federal government job, and one of the most, there's a common misconception that there's a lot of bureaucracy for working with the federal government, and that there's so much red tape that you can't really make a difference in your job in the federal government. But a lot of people kind of oversee the many benefits of working in the federal government as well. The first benefit is that you can actually make a concrete difference and make a direct difference to the country and actually partake in it directly. And you're able to enjoy a nice balance between your work and your personal life. I know that a lot of the government offers a flexi time schedule, which means that basically you can work 80 hours within 9 days, and then you have every other week, which is going to be a 3-day weekend. And they offer a lot of federal government agencies are now looking to hire employees who can work from home through, Skype sessions or through telephone conference calls. So this definitely is a lot more convenient and is another benefit for working for the federal government. Also, the federal government offers student loan repayment assistance. Agencies can repay up to $10,000 of your loan a year. Up to 33 agencies provide this assistance. And I know, a lot of us are going to be graduating with plenty of loans, maybe not 200,000, but we're still going to have loans, and this benefit is definitely tremendous. Employees can gain access to these loans after three years of serving with the federal government. And another benefit is that, what I mentioned earlier, their flexible schedules and their vacations are very generous. So for the first 3 years, federal employees are often granted 13 days of sick days and then 13 vacation days. So together, that's almost a month of free time for you. And the government offers extensive training and professional development. They often pay for your graduate school tuition fees, and they offer one of the nation's best health and retirement benefits. Also, the federal government, if you work within the federal government, there are a lot of opportunities to advance and to personally advance yourself.
One of the other myths is that the pay is not quite as good as if you were to go, for instance, with Goldman Sachs or PricewaterhouseCoopers right out of graduation. And that may be true for those just starting out. But what we want to do is give you an idea of what government pay really looks like. They have what they call the general schedule, which is their pay scale. It ranges from 1 to 15 or higher depending on what particular job that you are in. One thing they do is you move up. If you perform well within your position, you move up grades every time. To give you a start, you're not going to start at level 1 as a fresh college graduate. Those are reserved for the extremely entry-level, very basic positions where you either need a high school diploma or GED to even apply. For those who are getting ready to graduate college, you will most likely start at a GS5 level. We're going to show you what does a GS5 even mean or look like. If you graduate with a class standing in the upper third of your class with as part of an honor society, or you will reach a certain GPA requirement, you will start at a grade higher than that. Okay. Master's degree will move you up to the GS9 and doctorate to the GS11. So your education does count as experience towards a government position, which is really nice. If you can see, it's going to be based on location. What you make in New York City is not going to be what's made in Atlanta, is not going to be made as what you would make in Binghamton. But depending on where you start, there are significant dollar differences and thousands of dollars difference based on each grade level that you go up. The way that things work, if you start at a GS5, you'll be paid that salary for a year. You will then undergo your performance evaluation. Have a successful performance evaluation at the end of the year, you will automatically move up to the next grade level. Certain jobs only go to certain pay grades. If your job only goes to GS11, let's say they don't have a full 15, you will keep getting salary increments, you'll just be stuck at a GS9 level. But as that level increases with the rate of inflation, so will your salary increase. However, when you start at a GS9, and you transfer positions within the government field, you will stay at that 9 level throughout or increase. So you're never decreasing, you're always increasing, which is really nice. And even those who don't successfully pass their performance evaluation, you do get a salary increase. You don't jump grades, you don't get one as high, but you still do get a salary increase. So that's something even for a poor performance. And as you can see, 2 to 3 years later, you're probably making close to, or if not more, than your corporate counterparts in the private world. So don't let them fool you. Working for the government does definitely have its salary benefits.
Alright, so another common misconception of working with the federal government is that if you want a government job, you have to stay in Washington, D.C. This is not true because if you look at this map, you can see that most of the jobs are located all around the country and not just in D.C. In fact, there are only 16% of federal jobs that are located within Washington, D.C. So this means that 84% of the federal jobs are actually located around the country, and there are also plenty of federal jobs located overseas in other nations. You can work abroad if you wanted to. There are close to 50,000 federal employees that are working abroad. So you can work from home, you can work close from home, you can work in Washington, D.C., or you can work overseas. It's really up to you, but ultimately you're still working for the federal government. And this is a common misconception that people always have, and it deters them from working for the federal government. The next is that all federal employees have to be, political science or social science majors, and this is another common misconception. You can go into the federal government, you don't need to be a political science major. As you can see, there's occupations for business, accounting, IT, social sciences, engineering, architecture, and biology. So these are all fields of studies that the federal government are hiring for. And within the next several years, actually, there's going to be 500,000 federal employees that are going to be retiring. So this means that there's going to be a dramatic increase of positions that are going to be opening, and it's going to be great for students like you who are interested in federal service. And the next myth is, there really isn't that many, there aren't that many people interested in federal government anymore, but this really isn't true because there are 42% of people that are still interested in serving the country and working for the federal government, and a lot of times these 42% people are often deterred from applying because they think the application is so tedious and that it's so competitive. But in reality, you're going to be one step ahead of the game by just applying to these positions.
I'm sorry about that slide. It looks a lot better on your computer screen than it does up in the light here. So, that's just a little bit of myth busting when it comes to the federal government. So what happens when you're interested in a job with the federal government but you're not quite sure where to start? We want to give you some places and resources that you can check out on your own. One, check with family. Do some networking. You never know who your dad's brother, best friend may know or work with. And that goes to your friends, professors as well. There are some agencies that will reach out to professors, and there are some professors who have either contracts or some sort of workings or projects with federal government entities. And also check our alumni. We have the Alumni Career Network, which is a database of our alums who want to offer career advice to current students. You can search by their major, by their career, where they live, and they can give you some information about how they got into the field and where they're headed from there. A couple of websites that are really useful, especially for students who are just starting out, is makingthedifference.org, USA.gov, and blessedplacestotwork.org. Makingthedifference.org is a really useful tool, especially if you're just starting out. It has career interest guides, and I'm going to pass out 2 of them just so you can check them out. I didn't print one for everybody because unfortunately they are large, but they give you an idea. If you have an interest in art, what can I do with art in the federal government? You may not have an idea of the specific types of jobs, but there are positions at the Smithsonian, there are positions in marketing and advertising. This can just give you a little bit of a start of what's the typical pay look like, what types of positions are out there, what are the hot jobs. They also have resume writing, KSA tips, which we're going to get into in just a little bit, as well as an internship directory. So you can search this directory and see what internships government agencies have posted in the past. So if you're not quite ready for that job searching stage, looking for maybe an internship, this is one website that can definitely do that. USA.gov is also a really great place to start, especially if you're not sure what agencies are even out there. What is the government made up of? USA.gov gives you an A to Z index listing of all the federal government agencies. So you can skim them, search them, check them out, pull up random agency websites, especially ones that you've never heard about before. And bestplacestotwork.org, this is a survey that the government does of its own government agency. It looks at how satisfied are the employees who work there, what are their feelings about those agencies, and tells you what agencies do the employees think are the best places to work in the federal government. It can give you a really good starting point, an idea, especially if you're not quite sure of where to look.
Those are all really good starting points as to where to find, your future federal job. But there are also many government student programs that make it easier for college students to find government jobs or to get government jobs. The first is the Student Temporary Employment Program, also the STEP program. This program is a traditional internship that does not really have to relate to your field of study. This internship can be completed during the summer or during your school year, and students participating in this program must be accredited or enrolled in a university as a student. And this STEP program is always paid, and the length of your internship is set up depending on what agency you intern in. And these positions these programs are not always posted on USA Jobs. So it's important to actually go to various agencies to see if they offer these programs for you. Here's an example. This is the Department of Commerce. Okay, well basically if you go on to agency websites, you can always see, they tell you how to apply, what the requirements are, what qualifications are, and the various positions that are available. And the next student program is the Student Career Experience Program. And similar to the STEP program, this is usually a paid internship, and the difference is that it's an internship relating to your particular field of study. So the STEP program, you can intern in whatever field of study you want, but the STEP program is specific to your field of study. And this is a usually paid internship. And the cool thing about the STEP program is that if you work for a certain amount of hours, it's usually 640 hours or 16 weeks. And basically, after the internship, you'll be eligible to be hired non-competitively. So that gives you a great boost in the hiring process, and you're going to have that much of a better chance of getting that job that you want in that agency. And again, it's not posted, it may or may not be posted on USA Jobs, so check out various agency websites to see if they offer the program. Or after this, you can do some research on these programs, and at career fairs or when you're talking to agencies, you can bring up, hey, do you have a STEP or SCEP program?
The Federal Career Intern Program, STEP and SCEP tend to be more geared towards those who are still completing their current degrees. Federal Career Intern Program is for those who have completed their degree as an accredited institution. And it basically refers to a program where you try things out for a year or two. It depends on the agency how they will share this, but generally you will find these marketed under Federal Career Intern Program. You work for 2 years, either rotating within a particular office or serving in one particular role. There's no guarantee of a hire after this program, but it's a wonderful way to get in and check the government out. And if you do well, yes, for the most part, it probably will lead to a long-term position. But this is an opportunity to get your foot in the door in a non-traditional job search method. For those who have completed their master's degree or higher, there's the Presidential Management Fellowship Program. This is a very prestigious program. It's very, very competitive to get into. And you actually are best off working with our Office of External Scholarship Awards and I forget the full name in particular, but Janice McDonald helps students through this particular process here on campus. It requires an examination that needs to be completed in addition to a full-on scholarship application. The examination is not simple. It's one that needs to be studied for and prepared for ahead of time. So there is also this other opportunity for those who are interested in, just to throw out, it is pretty competitive, and the deadlines do occur fairly early, so it probably is too late at this point for those who may be interested, but definitely worth considering in the future. So those were just a couple of the different types of programs. If you're interested in finding a position outside of a program such as these, we have some resources. Definitely check with the Career Development Center using our e-recruiting job and internship posting system. Agencies that contact us with actual positions will be posted within our e-recruiting system. We also have agencies such as the IRS, Department of Defense, who attend our job and internship fairs. So get ready, start looking at who's attending for the spring 2011 fair. You can definitely touch base with some agencies at that point. If you're interested in a particular area or a small town, for instance, you want to stay in Binghamton, check out the blue pages of your actual phone book. They list the government agencies that are in your area. It's a wonderful starting resource to check out who's even in my area or close by that might have positions open. You can then either contact them directly through some networking, or you can be watching for those particular agencies within some of these other search sites. You can definitely check out the typical popular job and internship search engines. This is probably one of the least effective methods, but it is one method that you could be exploring. You can be checking makingthedifference.org and the Partnership Facebook fan page. If you do a Facebook search for the Partnership for Public Service, they have a fan page that you can like and get some additional information. There's also usajobs.gov, which is the government job and internship posting portal, basically. The only issue with searching usajobs.gov is not all agencies are required to post through this system. So if you use this as your only method, you are missing out on a lot of potential opportunities that agencies may have. So this is where it gets pretty complex with the government. You definitely want to check out usajobs.gov, but you also want to be checking out agency websites. And it's narrowing down the agency websites that you are interested in, because there are hundreds that you could potentially be looking for. But they all have, and I know you can't see it, but like a careers home, careers in motion. So you can actually go to their site and they have it's either under jobs, employment, careers, and will provide information on how and where they post their positions. Some will direct you right back to usajobs.gov. Some will have their postings right there. It's all kind of luck of the draw with whichever agency you happen to pick. Some will post both on their site and on usajobs.gov, but we just wanted you to be aware to be using both of those particular methods. So, it comes to searching. we're going to focus primarily on usajobs.gov because the process of searching on there is a little more intensive. It's not as easy as pulling up a job description, hitting apply, sending your resume and cover letter, and you're done. There's a lot more that goes into it. You can search by a number of methods: keywords, agencies, pay grades. You can search by occupation, the location. You can really narrow it down or keep it as broad as you like. I also wanted just to pass out, and I didn't print one for everybody because they're a little bit, and I also caution you on this is one of the resources. It's called the EI-23 form that the government sends out, and it basically lists your major and gives you some potential positions within the government that you could look into. However, I don't want you to pigeonhole yourself into these are the only 4 careers that I can look into because I'm a history major. It's just to give you some starting points and ideas. So that's why I don't want everybody to have a copy, because I don't want you to get nervous that that's all there is for me out there. But it is one way that you can kind of get an idea of some potential opportunities. But let's say you do a little search, you come across a position that you like. It's not as simple as here's the description, apply. There's so much more that goes into it. You can see these tabs that run across the top. They're going to provide you with an overview, which is just a little bit about the mission of the organization, a little bit about the agency, some basics of the job requirements. Then you're going to get into the duties that will be performed within the organization, providing you with some information, getting more detail than the overview. Then we go into the qualifications and evaluation, which is where you will see the types of degrees they're looking for, the type of experience. The government is really good about, you can have a bachelor's degree and 2 years of experience, or a master's degree and no experience. So they're really good about using your education as years of experience, so definitely keep that in mind. But it'll also look at the specific qualifications and skill sets that you should have for those particular positions. Then it gets into benefits and other information. It may touch upon salary, it may not. It may touch upon the types of compensation and benefits that you may encounter. And then it goes into how to apply. Right now, there's still 2 different types of methods. You can either do a paper-based application or an online application. Highly, highly recommended that you do the online application. The paper-based, for one, it can get lost, but everything else is online. So to bring in a paper-based application, unless it's absolutely necessary due to disability or something along those lines, try and do everything online. They will also provide you with an agency contact. I recommend printing this job description out as soon as you're interested in applying. As soon as that closing deadline hits, this will disappear and you lose all of that information. At least copy and paste it into a Word document or save it, because these are the people that you want to be following up with later on, as we'll kind of get into. But you don't want to lose the job description, especially when it comes to the interview stage, which they will perform after the closing date. So just kind of keep all of that in mind.
Okay. So,
let me skip that.
Okay, basically on the online process, you need to create a federal resume, and there's forms that you need to fill out online, and you need to submit the application before the deadline. And you need to follow up with the agencies. If you're not hearing back, even if you just want to know how the application process is going, it really doesn't hurt to follow up with the contact person that was listed on the agency website.
I'm going to pass out one of the memos from the federal government. As of November 1st, they have instituted some new hiring reforms that are all supposed to be in place. The great thing is not everybody has instituted these yet. And it's also great because we don't know how it's going to affect everything at this point. So we're going to do our best to share with you all the new stuff that we know that's going to be coming out in this process. But one thing is, you're going to have the opportunity to submit a cover letter, which they've never really offered the opportunity before. And this is great, except everything the CDC has taught you about writing cover letters, you have to scrap and go with the government model. So it makes it a little bit more difficult. when it comes to writing the cover letter, you want to go with a KSA-style cover letter. And Diane's going to spend some time just chatting with you about what in the world these KSAs are and how that might look on your cover letter.
Okay, so basically the KSA is an essay that tests your knowledge, your skills, and abilities. And the KSAs will not be an initial part of the application, but it may show up, you may encounter it during the other processes during when you're applying.
And you also want to use the model for your cover letter. So,
yeah. And these KSAs do vary based on agencies. And for people who are applying for a government job for the first time, writing KSAs can be very confusing. And this is a very good guideline to follow. The CCAR, context, challenges, action, and results. Basically, for the context, describe a specific problem you have to address. A work experience, any type of experience that you encounter. Challenges, describe the factors that contributed to a particular challenge. For example, new legislation, new goals, budget cuts, etc. And then after you present these challenges, you write about the action, describe steps you took to solve the problem or solve the challenge, and then finally the results, and you need to describe the outcomes of your action. So basically the KSAs are a test to your writing skills and your ability to communicate through your writing. So it's definitely important to to keep it organized and to keep it concise. Okay, so this is an example of a KSA response. So this is following the CCAR guidelines. For the context, as news editor in my living learning community, I was responsible for writing articles and editing. Challenges, our community wanted to use the newsletters as a means for reaching out to alumni before alumni of the program with the goal of increasing their enrollment in the community. And action, I decided to focus the first newsletter of the year entirely based on the accomplishments for our alumni, and the result of the action over the course of the academic year when I was newsletter editor, we received an average of 5 alumni submissions per newsletter. So you can see the gradual, the 4 steps to follow. It keeps your essay very organized, and definitely keep in mind these 4 steps when you're writing your KSA. Other tips for when you're writing the KSAs: address keywords and phrases mentioned in the job description or in the particular agency that you're applying for, and tie your experiences to each KSA, whether it's leadership or your work experiences, and use descriptive and illustrative examples in these KSAs, and focus on outcomes to which you directly contributed to. This is basically the result section of the guideline. And use plain language. Don't use acronyms, and make sure that there are no grammatical errors in your KSAs.
And just to reiterate, as Dan said at the beginning of the KSA portion, and also in the hiring form, you'll see that they're eliminating the KSAs from the application. That's the very initial stage. That's when you click apply. When you click apply and send in your resume and whatever other documents, you won't have to submit KSAs. However, you may encounter them throughout the rest of the process. So we just wanted you to be aware that you could encounter these. And as we start to go through, you'll fill out your profile portion of USA.gov, filling in your information. As you go through the application process with USA.gov, you're going to be asked very personal information such as social security numbers, citizenship statuses. With the government, that is normal. It's not normal in the private sector, but it is normal to require this type of information both on your resume and in your application process. So just be aware that is the norm. There are 2 methods of submitting your resume to the federal government through USAjobs.gov. The first method is creating your own, which I'm going to cover briefly. And these tips will also apply to any other agency that you're applying for that doesn't require you to go through USAjobs.gov. So it's kind of confusing, but keep this in mind for anything that you may need to create your own resume for the federal government. It's going to look very, very similar to your current resume. If you were to come into the CDC applying with Binghamton University, we're going to educate you and train you on creating a resume that looks like X. that's how your federal resume is going to look, except it's going to be much longer and more in-depth. We want to shift away from the one-page mentality that we've been training undergraduates to follow. The federal government can be 2, 3, 4 plus pages. It all depends on your level of experience and what you have going on. You're going to be describing and providing details on everything. Normally, we wouldn't encourage you to talk about a class and what you learned within a specific class, but we want to do that in the federal government because your education counts as experience in these cases. You got to think detail. You need to think your skills, abilities, accomplishments. Normally, when you might include 1 or 2 bullets, you're going to be writing 5 or 6 about everything that you learned, everything that you were trained on, everything you experienced and did and accomplished at an organization. Those are all going to be pieces of a federal resume that you might not encounter in other areas. So, highly recommend. We're going to be having writing your federal resume 101 workshop on December 1st. So if you are really interested in learning to create your document and how this will look, that's one area that you can do that. But on your resume, you're going to be including things like social security numbers, your citizenship statuses. While you don't have to, you will most likely want to include things such as that. So just to give you an idea, if you want to create your own, that there's a lot more that's going to go into it than your traditional resume. And the same piece of advice, whether you're applying in the private world or in the government world, different resumes for different things. So the resume that you use for position X, you will not use for position Y. So you may be rewriting 3 to 4 page resumes for different types of positions. So just stick with it if you are interested.
Okay. So USA Jobs has a very useful tool, which is the Resume Builder. And you can save up to 5 resumes at a time, and you can customize each resume for a particular job announcement. And then you can, when you're applying, you can instead of rewriting the resume, you can just send in the resume that you have already prepared for the job posting. Federal resumes, like Randy said, they require a lot more detail than your usual resumes. And they require a lot of personal information like social security information, your veterans eligibility, etc., that kind of information. And they ask for your education and coursework experience. When I was applying for the Department of State internship, actually, I tailored my resume and the coursework to include certain classes that would be better for the internship. So it's very important to consider education as experience as well. And you need to include whatever work experience you have. They ask for dates, names, and contact information of your supervisor, and the amount of salary that you make. So all of this is relevant. And definitely shift out of the one-page resume mentality. It's really based upon your experience. If you have more experience, it can be 3 pages, 4 pages, or 5 pages. And like I said earlier, USA Jobs can store up to 5 resumes at a time. As for the section, this is what your profile will look like on USA Jobs. You will include candidate information, your whatever work experience you have, and education experience. You can include your courses, credits, and references. You can include however many supervisor references that you have, and affiliations, as well as desired locations where you want to work in. This is an example of a USA Job federal resume. This is very convenient because you can just print it out just like that, and then before you have a career fair or a job fair, you can print it out and then take it to the job fair, and it's already saved and ready for use. So for the federal application process, applicants would be assessed for federal opportunities with 2 methods: the application questionnaire as well as online forms. So this is the second part of the application where you need to either focus on the questionnaire or the essay. This is a sample questionnaire. These questionnaires basically are tailored to many entry-level positions, and they ask you to complete this based on your experience and your skills. So you want to read through each answer really carefully and select the answer that fits best for your circumstance. what's important is that you need to be honest, and if you select the answer that works for you the best, you don't need to lie about your experience or skill, because once you actually go for an internship and you're not able to prove that your skill is the same work, that's big no.
They will give you, answering this particular question is pretty easy. I'm an expert, I'm not an expert. But when you have 100 of these that you have to go through before you can submit your application, it gets very long and tedious. So they don't expect you to be an expert on 100 different skill sets. They want to know the variety of skills that you have, and they want you to be honest, because they will find out. And the federal government's not exactly one place that you want to be kicked out of that job workforce.
Okay, so when you're applying, you need to include your applicant eligibility when submitting this information. Basically what it includes is your past or present federal government experience, whether or not you've worked for another agency previously, gaps for qualifications, disability status, and also non-competitive appointment. Basically all this information is to assess basically your entry level status, and this is all information that comes into play when they determine your level.
To give you an idea about the non-competitive appointment, basically there are two groups of people that are applying to the federal government. One with non-competitive status and the rest of everybody else. Basically, when you have either completed government service through one of these STEP or STEP programs, or through a Peace Corps or AmeriCorps type program, you are considered non-competitive. And this means if I have 100 applicants and 3 are non-competitive, I have to consider those 3 first before I can move to the rest of the pool. If one of those 3 matches my qualifications, does well in the interview, you are the one that's being hired. So basically, it cuts your chances from a 1 in 100 to 1 in 3. So you definitely want to have that 1 in 3 chance before they move to that bigger pool. So that's the non-competitive. And things like disability and veteran status, those can impact your chances as well. So just be honest with all of those and provide them with the information that they need. With one of the new hiring forms, yes?
They can affect it in a positive way.
Yes, in a very positive way. Not all government agencies are equal opportunity employers. They may say that they are, but what they really do is kind of different. The FBI is one of them. FBI has actually been banned from recruiting on some campuses because they are not equal opportunity employers, regardless of what they say. For their basic positions or clerical, yes, they'll consider everybody. But if you're looking to become an FBI agent, there are weight and height requirements that you need to meet. There are certain physical requirements that need to be met. So all of those can impact your particular application. So while we like to think that it's open for everybody, sometimes it's not. But for the most part, in most typical agencies, they will tend to follow those equal opportunity employer rules. Any other questions? So one of the new hiring reforms is that they have to give your application, everything has to be done within 80 days. 80 days from the close of the deadline of the job that you're interested in applying to till the date of a particular hire. Right now, they're working towards this. Not all agencies are there. But in that job description that we showed you in the very beginning, they will have an open and a close date for that particular position. So it'll be open from August 1st of 2010 to December 1st of 2010. So that means get your application in before December 1st. They probably will not look at any applications until December 2nd, so expect to wait a while. There are some positions that are considered rolling, and they'll be open for years at a time. And those are the positions that tend to either keep coming up because there's so many of them, or the turnover is very high. And in that case, submit when you choose to, because they'll consider you as soon as they need a new employee. But right now, it's supposed to be from the date that closes. By the time they review applications, make an offer, there should be 80 days. So that tells you it could be 40 days before you even hear about a potential interview. It could be another 40 days before you even hear about a particular offer. So don't worry, it's going to take some time, but don't worry about that. They're also supposed to notify you at every stage of this process if you have been eliminated. So if you are not moving forward to the interview pool, you are supposed to be notified. Not everybody's doing it yet, but they're getting there. If you have an interview but are not one of the top finalists, you are supposed to be notified. So right now there's been some issues with people who will submit applications and then never hear another word. Hopefully over the next year or two that's really going to change as these new hiring reforms are coming through. And again, they're supposed to be in place November 1st. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But plan ahead. These applications are time-consuming and take a lot of time and effort. I just wanted to hand these out as we're wrapping things up. This is just a little information on security clearances. Certain government organizations will require security clearances as you go through the process. Depending on the agency, it can be very long and intensive, or it can also be very short and quick if people in the background checking fingerprints. But every agency is different, so that's going to depend. Because the application process is very long and consuming, take your time and choose wisely. If you apply for anything and everything, your applications are going to suffer. Prepare for the wait. If you don't receive a no, assume you're still in the running. But again, remember, it can take 80, 90 days, and that can be business days as well. So just hang in there. It's also why we recommend applying now for positions, because by the time this whole process gets through, you're going to be graduating anyway. Don't be afraid to follow up with the agency. They provide contact information in all of their job postings. Follow up. Make sure they received your application. Do they have any other questions? That can make a really big impact. And after the closing date, the agency is going to evaluate candidates just like a normal organization will. They're going to choose a list of qualified candidates. They're going to interview those, and from those interviews, they're going to choose one to hire. Very similar to the regular process. And they also may have security clearances coming in at that point as well. But they're looking for the best and the brightest. So don't worry about your GPAs. Focus on everything, leadership skills, your classroom experience. Look at the whole package. That's what they are looking for. To increase your chances, make sure you research the organizations, just like you would in a private sector job search. Research the positions. Know what you're applying for. Tailor your resumes, cover letters, and essays to these particular organizations. All of those things make a very big difference. Follow up. Sell yourself to the government. Just a couple of things. If there's a vacancy date that is less than 2 weeks long, so it goes from November 1st to November 12th, more than likely they have somebody in mind for that position. They're just doing the legalities and regulations of posting the position, but most likely they have someone in mind. If it's less than 2 weeks long, I wouldn't even bother applying. Chances are it's not looking good for you on the outside. And keep in mind that applying through usajobs.gov will be different than applying through the other organization website. Through the agency websites, you may not encounter the applications or the online questionnaires, but through USA Jobs, you most likely will. So that is basically how to go through and find positions and the type of application process that you will run into. Does anybody have any questions? Very quiet group. Well, you can feel free to chat with either Diana or I after. Ask us any questions that you may personally have. Thank you. Thank you.